What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Propcast Happy Hour on the Player Profiler YouTube channel. We're here. We're live from Radio Row, the second time this week for the Propcast Happy Hour. Got my main man, Dario Offstein, right here. You can find him on Twitter at Dario Offstein. And we got a special guest today. You can find him on Twitter at Dalton_Kates. Dalton Kates from Stealing Lines. He is the OG, the betting expert we brought for you guys for the Propcast Happy Hour. The final show of the season, the 2022 season. We're putting a cap on it here at Super Bowl 57 from the Phoenix Convention Center at the Caesars Sportsbook Super Stage. Dalton, how are you doing?
Dude, fantastic. Excited to be here with you guys, hanging out. We got like some beds behind us that look extremely comfy. I just want to like jump on them, hang out, man. Dude, honestly, it's just a vibe, man. Like being out here. I mean, I'm born and raised here, Scottsdale, Arizona. To have like all the Super Bowl stuff here, it's fun, man. Have you guys over here and invite me on. It's pretty cool, man. I'm excited.
Yes, definitely. I appreciate you guys coming. Appreciate you coming on.
Of course.
Dario,
Been here.
how you feeling?
I'm feeling great. Yeah, like you said, it's the last happy hour of the season. It's hard to believe that we've been doing this for, I guess, 22 weeks now. Feels like nothing. Feels like
no better way to finish it out.
Oh yeah.
Than right here with this background, with these people up here. Shout out again to the Omaha and the Caesars crew for putting this stage together, getting us all locked in and locked up here for the Propcast Happy Hour.
Oh yeah.
We got a bevy of props to go through, as always, right? It's a Super Bowl. Caesars Sportsbook has the most novelty props among any sportsbook right now. But at the first glance, when you open up the Caesars Sportsbook app, open it up on your phone right here in the app, they have quick picks right now. And the quick picks, you can go on there and you can find the first thing that pops up is the quick picks covers Sharp 600, which is available right now. It's essentially a same-game parlay, plus 700 right now. It's Kansas City Chiefs plus 1.5. First players to score a touchdown, Travis Kelce, and then Jalen Hurts rushing over 50.5 and rushing attempts over 10.5. That's a quick pick. So they're going to be doing different quick picks throughout the entire week. So if that's gone by the time you listen to this, there'll be a different one up. There'll be different stuff rolling up throughout the entire week over at Caesars Sportsbook. Let's get this bad boy started off right here, though. Dario, you got our first prop?
Yeah. So I, looking closely, digging deep into the projections. And I think that Isaiah Pacheco's prop at 48.5 rushing yards is currently a value. We haven't projected for about 55 rushing yards. He's gone over this number in 9 of the last 11 games. I mean, if that doesn't tell you that he's a favorite to go over this number, I don't know what does. Obviously, there's a tiny bit of concern. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is coming back. But the last 2 games that Clyde Edwards-Helaire played in, Isaiah Pacheco went over this number. We already know that he had unseated CEH as the starter. So, you'll also get this pick if you're subscribed to the Player Profiler newsletter. So make sure to subscribe to that to get all of our Player Profiler picks. Obviously, this is the last week of the season, but we've got some extra picks tucked away in there. And this one, figured we'd lead off the show with that one.
I mean, we're just talking about a prospect like Isaiah Pacheco. You go back 12 months. I remember literally, about 11 and a half when we were at the Combine talking to this guy, and he had the Gucci shades on, and he was just all relaxed and content. He wasn't really outgoing. And he was kind of like, it reminded me of the Randy Moss vibes from back in the day when he went to the Heisman, and he's got the glasses on, just very quiet. And then this week, the energy's high. You can tell he's the RB1 in this team. 48.5 for a starting running back. I know there's McKinnon, but we talked about McKinnon before the show about the usage is just going down and down and down. Obviously, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to come back. What to expect from Clyde, though? I mean, this is Pacheco's backfield. Do you agree?
100%. I mean, we like Dario mentioned, right before Clyde went on IR, those last 2 games, Isaiah Pacheco was already taking over the backfield. And we saw him take over the backfield over McKinnon. Like, it was crazy. Like, the first playoff game, we saw McKinnon just have his biggest snap share ever, and it looked like McKinnon was going to be the guy in the playoffs, so was going to be playing a lot, especially with Mahomes being hurt. And now Pacheco kind of flips the script, and he was the main guy, and they utilized him in the pass game a ton, too. It's like they clearly trust him enough in an AFC championship game to utilize him. Like, I don't think Clyde Edwards-Helaire's too much of concern with him there. And, like, the thing is, he's been balling out. He's been playing good, too. So he's earned those reps, and nothing should change this game.
And I think a lot of people might be scared off of this because of the matchup, but you have to keep in mind the Eagles' front 7 is actually pretty so-so against the run. They're very scary when it comes to pressuring opposing quarterbacks. But I think it's because the Eagles are a sharp front office. They know that stopping the pass is much more valuable than stopping the run. So they're willing to let you run on them a little bit. They were, I think, 17th, which is just in the middle of the pack in rush yards per game allowed, even though they were a team that was constantly playing from ahead. They had the best game script in the entire league. 100%. So a lot of factors are pointing to the Chiefs being able to run on the Eagles. Obviously, we know Pacheco's explosive as hell, 437, 40-yard dash time. So I think he's a solid bet to get a big play that'll help him get to this line for sure.
I mean, come on, 4.37. He's got the athleticism to do this on one play. And I mean, it's just
Yeah.
too low for me. Let's move on to the receiving game, though. I know, this is your favorite player in the league right now.
Oh yeah.
And in argument, that is not even an argument. The best wide receiver in this game. What's the prop?
Dude, AJ Brown to have the most receiving yards in the game, plus 425. AJ Brown, we talked about dogs. He
Dog.
is dog. Dog. And the thing about AJ Brown is he has this massive ceiling potential any given week. There is nobody in this game that offers more big play potential than him. So when you're getting him at a line of plus 425, Caesar's essentially saying, like, there's less than 20% chance that AJ Brown is going to do this. Now, if we know the receivers and the tight ends and the players in this game, it seems very concentrated to guys like Travis Kelce, Devontae Smith, and AJ Brown.
Yeah.
Like, it's not impossible that, like, a Marcus Valdes-Scantling or a Kadarius Toney or a Quez Watkins or one of those guys has the most receiving yards, but it seems like in a lot of scenarios that are going to play out, especially in the Super Bowl, when you want to get your best players involved, one of these three guys is going to win it. So at these odds for a player of AJ Brown's caliber, like, they took the deep shot. Like, Jalen Hurts just missed him in that Niners game. We haven't seen AJ Brown ball out yet this postseason because
It's been a few weeks.
You're
Right.
playing
They
the
haven't had
Giants.
to. I think
Exactly.
I've been thinking about that too. The Eagles' 2 playoff games thus far, probably
Dustings.
the easiest path to a Super
Ever.
Bowl that any contender has ever had. Right? I mean,
Yeah.
the Giants, great storyline, over exceeded their expectations this year, but absolutely did not in the same class as the Eagles. They blew them out, and then of course you have the Niners losing not one but 2 of their quarterbacks after literally going down to their 4th string over the course of the season. So I think the Eagles haven't had to throw the ball yet in the playoffs. So I think you're totally right that that's probably leading to a little bit of underestimating AJ Brown
100%.
Two
this week.
blowouts, 69-14 in those 2 games, like you mentioned. He still had 14 targets in those 2 games, less than 30 yards. So you can kind of see where that value comes in at for this game with an AJ Brown type. But you look at those games before that, 95, 97, 103, 181. Like, come on, let's not get this twisted, right? Like, Jalen Hurts can throw the ball when he has to, and AJ Brown's the best player. Travis Kelce's probably the best player. But
100%.
as far as upside goes, 175-yard touchdown, and this is
Easy.
over. This is over.
100%. I think one thing too that's really interesting as well. Like, we've seen AJ Brown have these massive games, but the Eagles, especially with Jalen Hurts playing quarterback and being healthy, they've really had 1 game that they've lost with Jalen Hurts. So there's a scenario in which the Chiefs get up in this game, and now they're forced to pass the ball even more. And we haven't seen a lot of those game scripts too. And AJ Brown has done well even without those game scripts. So the volume, I don't know if it's something that we can project him to have a massive game volume, but there's a lot of scenarios in which he does get that, and it just makes this even more likely.
Well, and he's also one of the most efficient players in the league. He doesn't need 15 targets to break a game open. Like, he can get those lines where it's 8 targets, 150 yards, 7 targets, 140 yards. That's like a classic AJ Brown stat line. So I'm totally with you.
Also,
on that
I'm
one.
not gonna lie. Last night, I mean, what else is there to do at 11 o'clock p.m. In Arizona other than sit in your house and watch AJ Brown highlights this year? So
Yeah.
that also got me hyped up too. But yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, nobody offers like splash play potential like him.
So if you want to make those props, go over to playerprofiler.com/offers, and you can be able to get all of these offers at Caesars in your respective state. And right now, use the promo code UnderworldFull. You get $1,250 in bet credit, up to $1,250 in bet credit. And win or lose, you get $1,000 reward credits and 1,000 tier credits as well over at Caesars Sportsbook. That's playerprofiler.com/offers, and the promo code is UnderworldFull. Let's move on past the yardage props for now. Let's go to touchdowns. Is there anybody like first touchdown, anytime touchdown, anything?
I think you can't talk about touchdowns in this game without talking about Travis Kelce. I mean, the dude has a touchdown in 8 of his last 9 playoff games. Like, it's almost a lock. And the juice is only at -114, so they're treating it more like a 50-50. But in reality, I mean, we know that he's Mahomes' go-to guy. Yeah. We know that he's been their clear number 1 weapon this season in the absence of Tyreek Hill. And he has multiple red zone targets in 10 out of 19 games this season. I mean, he had a 4-touchdown game this year. Remember that?
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's just the start and end of the conversation in terms of obvious guys to get a touchdown in this game. And I think the juice should be even stronger, but -114, you got to be happy to push that button.
We talked about him on end the other day, about him being the reason that this team was able to kind of overcome those things early in the season and become a full team again, where the question was, oh, well, Tyreek Hill's gone, and this team's not going to be able to win 10 games, win 11 games. Instead, they go and win 14. Just because Kelsey was the focal point of that. And it was the same stat I mentioned earlier, where the leading receiver in 3 of the last 6 seasons was Kelsey. 3 of the last 6 seasons was Hill. Kelsey's just as important, if not the most important, in this offense, and I think it's a pretty much a shoe-in for him to have a good game. Touchdown minus 114. I love that. The other one I like over at Caesars is Kelsey versus Kelsey, brotherly love. This one is kind of crazy to me. So it's minus 6.5 in favor of Travis to have more receiving yards than Jason to have snaps. And you look at Jason's snaps the last 2 games, 67, 68. He averages right on that 72 range. The line for Kelsey, I believe, in this game is 78.5. When you look at the numbers for Kelsey in the playoffs, Travis right here, all right? So we're talking 67 to 68 snaps for Jason Kelsey. Travis Kelsey has averaged 88 yards per game this year in the playoffs, 99 per game in 2021, and 120 yards per game in 2020 in those 3 playoff games, each of those playoffs. That is bonkers. And you look at his career in the playoffs, he's got 15 games and 1,400 yards.
I love it, man.
Travis Kelsey, minus 6.5 over his own brother. Brotherly love prop over on, again, the novelty. The novelty props are crazy at Caesars Sportsbook right now. 6.5, minus 6.5 in favor of Travis. It's minus 160. It's juiced to the gills, but I don't care. Travis over Jason by 6.5. We'll take it. Let's move on to the first half lead change. Do you think there will be a first half lead change in this game? Plus 130, yes. Minus 160, no.
I mean, when you told me this line, I was completely shocked that it was not juiced the other way entirely. Yeah. Because if you think about it, what this prop is asking you is, will the same team hold the lead for the entire first half? And, I mean, it just seems like that doesn't happen very much in football games in general. Like, how often do you see no lead changes in an entire half of football? These are 2 really good teams. And like you said, this is super simple. Oh, one team scores a field goal, 3-0. Other team comes back with a touchdown, 7-3. There you go. You've cashed your bet. And it's juiced toward the lead change. Plus 130 for the yes. I mean, I don't see what they're thinking on this one, honestly.
That's what I'm saying. When you look at like the past games, obviously the Eagles one's going to be a little tougher because they've had the 2 blowouts. But when you look at like the Bengals and the Chiefs game last week, it was back and forth the whole game. And that's kind of what you expect out of 2 really good teams is back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. You get 2 strong defensive lines. You got strong, powerful offenses. What do you think?
I don't know about you guys, but I think there's going to be a lot of points scored in this game, and I think this is a fun like variation to play alongside that. Like these are both extremely powerhouse offenses, right? And the line on this game is 50.5 points, so we know points are going to be scored. Like it's very easy
It's actually crept up to 51 here on Caesars, which surprised me because it opened at 49.5
incrementally.
All the sharps and the sports.
I think the script came out. Didn't the script come out? It was
I'm
like
actually the NFL script writer. I mean, it says So I'm telling you guys right now, this one might hit.
All right, so that's. I think we're all in agreement on the first half lead change. I mean, this game should be high scoring. Plus 130, yes, for a first half lead change. This is one that I like right here. Was total sacks. The line is 5.5. Dario might argue back with me a little bit in this one, but 125 sacks for the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles in this one. 70 for the Eagles and 55 for the Chiefs this year, number 1, number 2 in the NFL. Now they both combine for 70 total allowed as well. So that's 5.6 allowed per game on average and 7.54 per game on average. The Nines 5.5. I'm going over.
It's only 4.1 allowed total per game, and it's 5.6 when you take the average of the sacks allowed by both teams and the sacks for both teams. So this line is really just right on the nose because these teams are taking significantly less than this, but then obviously you have 2 very good pass rushing units. I mean, just think about the names, right? Chris Jones, Hassan Reddick, Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, Frank Clark. I mean, the list goes on and on. But I do think that the key stat here, at least why my initial read on this is toward the under, is because Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, 2 of the best quarterbacks at escaping pressure and not letting that pressure become a sack. Mahomes, turns only 11.5% of pressures into sacks. League average is around 20%. So the Eagles are going to have a hard time getting him from pressured to sacked. And I think that, the line's at 5.5. I just don't think we see 6 sacks in this game.
Yeah.
That's a lot of times for the quarterback to be getting buried. Mahomes is very capable of getting rid of the ball quickly. I think the Eagles will be happy to lean on the run in this game if they can. So I just see a lot of variables getting by for this game not quite to get there on 6 sacks.
All right, well, one of the reasons I like it, and if I'm wrong there, I'll be right here, and that's Josh Sweat. Josh Sweat's a name you didn't mention. Yes, to get a sack is plus 130. He has 1+ sacks in 5 of the last 7 games, and he has 11 on the season. That's the same as Brandon Graham. Sweat's an unsung baller on this defensive line. He can bend the edge with the best of them against Andrew Wiley, against Orlando Brown. He's going to get the opportunity, and I think he does come home with 1 sack. That's plus 130 for Josh Sweat on the Philadelphia Eagles defensive line. You get any other touchdown props you like, either of you?
How much can we talk about A.J. Brown on this podcast?
As much as we want, because he's a dog.
Yeah.
As much as we want.
I would say if I were to go for somebody that scores touchdowns, like A.J. Brown through his first 4 years in his career on a per-target basis is like top 10 all-time among wide receivers. Like Randy Moss, like some of those guys, those are the guys that A.J. Brown has historically put himself in the company with. And we saw it this year too. 145 targets. He had 11 touchdowns this season. And also, I think the most surprising thing was like how many times he got tackled within the 5-yard line. Again, this is also from like my total like film breakdown last night when I was, sitting there watching AJ Brown highlights. But I was like, he's there all the time. And he's somebody that Jalen Hurts like clearly like looks for in these scenarios. Again, he has the big play potential too. Like one deep bomb, he can go break a tackle. Like there's nobody that can break tackles in the open field with strength and agility. Somebody like A.J. Brown does extremely well. So there's a lot of opportunities for that, and especially in a high-scoring game too. I think that's a fun way to play it, and he's plus 120 right now, so you can kind of get a great line right now.
I think I know where you're going later with one of my questions. It's going to be. I'm not going to tease that one, but do you have any last touchdown?
Yeah, I think so. Another novelty prop that I saw for this game that I haven't really seen for any other game before is you can bet on who's going to get the last touchdown of the first half, which is an interesting concept. The way that I was unpacking that was, well, you have Mahomes on one sideline and Hurts on the other. I do think the Chiefs are going to be a slightly better 2-minute drill team. If they do get the last possession of the first half, I do think they are more of a threat to go down and score a touchdown on it. So which Chiefs pass catchers are, good underdogs? Again, this is like a little sprinkle bet, little bit of long odds. But Jerick McKinnon is plus 1,100, Kadarius Toney is plus 2,000, and I think Justin Watson at plus 4,000 is very much in play. This is specifically for the last touchdown of the first half. So you're betting on a pretty niche scenario happening, but I think that just the logic of how that could get there does feel somewhat feasible, and obviously the returns are pretty nice.
I actually really like that angle, especially if you compare it to the first touchdown score. Like, what's the difference between somebody scoring a touchdown, the first touchdown of the game, and scoring the last touchdown? Like, there's really no difference, and you'd actually expect that it's more likely that a pass catcher is going to get it at the end of the half. So when you look at a line like Kadarius Toney's 12-1 to score the first touchdown season, but he's 20-1 to score the last touchdown, like, why am I not taking that extra value there in a scenario where it's more likely it's a passing touchdown at the end of the game where they have to throw with time potentially expiring? Right. So I like that a lot.
I like it. All right, well, if you go over to Caesars right now, you have to opt in, but there's up to $57,000 in bet credit available to win. All you have to do is log into your account, opt in, wager $5+ on any market for the Super Bowl with a minimum odd of minus 200 between now and February 12th at 2:30 p.m. Upon placing a qualifying wager, receive a set number of entries determined by your Caesars reward tier status. If you're gold, you get 1 entry, platinum 3, diamond 5, and 7 stars is 7 entries. 632 winners will be selected during the drawing on February 12th. 5 winners will get $57,000 in bet credits. 57 winners will get $570 in bet credits, and 570 winners will get $57 in bet credits. Bet credits will be credited before the Super Bowl expire at the end of the game. Go over to Caesars Sportsbook today and opt in and wager $5+ at E-Market minus 200. Let's move on to the first reception of the game. Who do you guys got?
Well, So this prop is actually the first reception. They have these novelty props where you can just bet on between two players which
Okay,
one of them
so
is
it's
going to be the
competition.
first one to get a reception.
Head to head.
Yeah. So head-to-head between Dallas Goedert and Devontae Smith, we've got a prop. Goddard plus 100, Devontae minus 130. So thought process here is, okay, how many targets do they get in the first quarter of games? And over the course of the season, Goddard averages 2.16 targets per first quarter. Devontae Smith averages 2.23. Pretty similar, even just off of that stat. I think I'd be happy to take the favorable juice with Goddard at plus 100 and Smith minus 130. But on top of that, you have the fact that since Goddard has returned to health in week 18, we know he had that, I think it was a shoulder injury, wasn't it? He's had 9 targets in the first quarter of these 3 games. Devontae Smith has had 5 targets across the first quarter of these 3 games. So odds are pretty favorable for Goddard getting a catch before Devontae Smith. And like I said, the juice is kind of leaning the other way. Obviously, Devontae Smith has a slightly bigger role in the offense overall, but recent first quarter trends point to this being a value in the direction of Goddard.
I like the sound of a 5-yard out to Goddard to start the game.
100%. We talk a lot about scripts. Like, obviously, me as the lead writer on the NFL script, but the Eagles themselves also like have game scripts in the first like 10 to 15 plays, right? And it seems like Dallas Goedert is like a clear focal point as part of that passing offense in those scripts, and then off there they kind of do their own stuff. So I like that. I mean, they definitely target Dallas Goedert in the first quarter more, or in the first drive also more than like any other drive or quarter in the rest of the game. So I like that look a little
Good
bit.
pull. That's a
And
good pull.
I think, too, keep in mind, Dallas Goedert has gotten to 5 receptions in each of these 2 playoff games, and we've seen, A.J. Brown have pretty, unsurprisingly low bottom lines because of the game script here. I think Dallas Goedert is somewhat game script proof. Like, they're going to call a few short passes. They're going to keep him involved. So I think that just the early involvement for Goddard does make me lean his way, and the juice is thankfully going the other way. So I like that bet.
I'm going to move to you first. Let's talk about the running backs. Let's skip over this next question. Let's go right to running back. Miles Sanders, Kenny Gainwell. Anybody in this Philadelphia backfield interest you in anything?
I have some strong takes on the Eagles
Okay.
backfield.
Okay, we're going to stay. I mean, you've been talking all Eagles.
Oh yeah, I am. Miles Sanders gonna have a game. He's gonna have a game, and here's why. I think when we looked at the last couple games, it's been chaos for the Eagles because we haven't seen an actual like full game script of what they're going to do, right?
Yeah.
So we know that they've blown out both these teams, and in the second half, they've kind of like leaned on guys like Gainwell and Boston Scott to kind of carry the load. Like Miles Sanders in the first half combined of the Giants and the Niners game, he's had 23 carries for 114 yards. So in when they've actually been in the game and when they haven't had to go off script and bring in the backups, like Miles Sanders has been the guy. 23 of his 28 attempts have come there. Kenneth Gainwell's, I'm pretty sure he's seen like 75% of his rushing attempts in the fourth quarter of 3 touchdowns.
Yep.
Yeah.
So like, it's very heavily skewed towards Sanders. I think they're going to utilize him a lot. The Chiefs have played like the second easiest schedule of running backs this year. And so far through 2 games in the playoffs, they're the second worst rush D behind, I think it's the Giants. So this is a great matchup for him. Like they clearly tried to utilize him early on in these games. I don't expect anything to change. And if we just look at like what is actually mattered in context for them this playoffs, like it's clear that Sanders is a guy they're trying to utilize, and it's a great matchup for it. So I love him. 13 and a half attempts. Like, yeah, all day. Even money. Come on.
You just look at those last 4 games that really haven't meant, like, I mean, they've meant something to them. Like the 2 games coming into the playoffs from the regular season, 41%, 39% snap shares, 12 and 11 carries. And the 2 playoff games, which were blowouts, 36 and 32% snap share, 17 and 11 carries. Like the carries are getting there. If this game, I think there's a good chance they're going to want to press. You don't want to they're not going to intentionally get into a shootout with Patrick Mahomes.
No.
Nobody's going to do that. So you really want to focus, I think, on the run. And I think that's obviously going to start with Miles and with Jalen Hurts. And we talked about the prop earlier, the opt-in, the quick pick you can opt into, 10.5 carries. So it's like there's kind of an expectation that the run game's going to be there. You kind of in the same line as far as rushing with Philadelphia Eagles?
Yeah, I think so. And I think that you make a great point about just the game script in these playoff games for the Eagles has been ridiculous. Crazier things have happened in the Super Bowl, but I really don't see the Eagles blowing out the Chiefs.
Yeah.
You can't really keep Patrick Mahomes down and out. Best case scenario for a bet like this is the Eagles do have a steady lead. They can continue leaning on the run. But I think even if they don't, they're going to want to continue. That's like the identity of their team, and that's absolutely, I think, a great call this week.
Marquez Valdez-Scantling's line for his first reception of the game, which when you think of Marquez Valdez-Scantling, if we said think of one word, what's the first word that comes to your mind when you think of Marquez Valdez-Scantling?
Deep play threat.
Fast.
Okay. His line's 9.5.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely interesting for sure. Patrick Mahomes utilized him a ton last game. I think I have some questions about the ability for him to actually make deep plays against the secondary guys like Darius Slay. I think it's going to be a little bit tough in that regard, but at the same time, I think they're going to have to create splash plays in this environment. You're going against the Eagles, and also the Eagles. Also, even though they've had great cornerbacks, if we look at it, and shout out to my guy Connor Allen for this, but he basically looked at the Eagles in their matchups this year, and they played 9 of their 19 matchups. They played either backup quarterbacks or bottom 10 quarterbacks. They only played 5 teams in the top 16 of past DVOA teams, and in those games, they're 19th in EPA per play. They're 21st in explosive pass rate allowed. So against actual good teams, the Chiefs or the Eagles have actually not been the best pass defense against some of these teams. And Patrick Mahomes, some of his best games have come against top 10 pass defenses too. So I think there are scenarios in which this can definitely happen for sure.
Yeah, Patrick Mahomes is definitely elite defense proof.
Yeah.
I saw a chart the other day that basically was looking at when quarterbacks face defenses in the top half in EPA per play and defenses in the bottom half of EPA per play. And Patrick Mahomes is just on an island.
Yeah.
The guy is clearly on another level right now. And I think that this kind of just goes back to the main theme, I think, in the NFL right now, which is that at the end of the day, a good offense can beat a good defense. A great offense can beat a great defense because of the way the rules are structured, because of the pass-heavy nature of the game. And to get back to this prop, I think it's, that's a good point about not being overly concerned with the Eagles secondary. And I think it's also a matter of the nature of MVS's route tree. Only 36% of his receptions this season were under 9.5 yards. So 64% of them were over 9.5 yards. This prop is juiced at minus 115 either way.
Yep.
So, they kind of, I think that's when sportsbooks are admitting that they're more uncertain. They're like, no, you got to give us extra juice on both sides of this line. But I think that's when, with a little bit of research, we can take advantage. Because the way that MVS is utilized, most of his targets are going to be deeper down the field than this. And he's pretty quick, very capable of turning a 6-yard out into a 12-yard gain. So I think 9.5 yards here seemed low at first thought, did the research, and I think MVS is a pretty good bet to go over this on his first reception of the game.
Let's start talking about a couple more, I guess, funner or different novelty props. The opening kickoff, to or not to be a touchback. What are you taking?
I think that it's a tough one because it's the Super Bowl, right? Most of the time you think of a kickoff, who cares? It's gonna be a touchback. But I think that if it's even close, first 1 or 2 yards of the end zone, that guy who's back there returning the opening kick of the game is definitely thinking about bringing it out. And this is plus 125 not to be a touchback. So, I don't know. What do you think, Dalton?
Honestly, this is one of my favorite and most interesting plays. We found out some really interesting info from Pat McAfee last year, and he kind of explained that the football they use on the opening kickoff, it's a commemorative football.
Yep.
Think of when you're watching the Super Bowl and you're just watching on TV, you see all the lights and everything. It's a big deal. The NFL wants it. They want to utilize it in the Hall of Fame and have that football there. But it's actually a different type of football. Pat McAfee said the football's harder. It's harder than an actual football on the outside, and it's actually harder to kick. And if we look historically at what has transpired on these opening kickoffs, specifically in the Super Bowl, 49 of 46 Super Bowls was not a touchback. Again, that's a lot, but we also have to understand that the NFL touchback rule kind of changed recently, so we can't really be oh, this is going to hit 80% of the time. No, they changed the rule 6 years ago, and since that has happened, 4 of the 6 years was not a touchback. You're getting plus 125 on that right now. I know Harrison Butker, I know Jake Elliott. If you look at their percentage of touchbacks, 64% of them, I don't care. It's this specific opening kickoff touchback. Different balls being used. Shout out Pat McAfee if you're over there. Shout out to you for that intel, and it actually makes it a nice play here. So.
I just know 100% for a fact if Isaiah Pacheco is back there, he's returning that football.
Dog.
Like 100% returning that football. So I like that. Plus 125 is to not be a touchback. I'm taking that. Hands down every time. Let's move on to the MVP discussion. That's the main one everyone wants to talk about. I think I know where you're going. I don't have a clue where you're going, and I'm going to dig way deep. So let's start out with you.
I might throw you for a loop here. As much as I want to go A.J. Brown, I think overall, it's just like a strategy of mine that I do when it comes to MVP betting. When it comes to wide receivers and tight ends specifically, instead of actually betting on the MVP market, what I would rather do is create a same-game parlay on Caesars and go ahead and create specific stat lines and scenarios in which it's going to happen. So obviously, if A.J. Brown's winning MVP, it's because the Eagles are going to win. It's because he has a good game. So I looked historically at like what takes some of these wide receivers and tight ends to get there. Ideally, you need like essentially 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, or you need like 140 yards and 1 touchdown. So if you do either of those stat lines and parlay that with an Eagles win, you can get probably better odds than the 15-1 they're offering on A.J. Brown right now. So that's probably my favorite way if you're playing like a Kelsey or an A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith. Probably just look to do that way a little bit because you can get a little bit better odds. But my favorite play here, just in general, is Patrick Mahomes. Like, it's hard for me to see a lot of scenarios in which the Chiefs win and Patrick Mahomes doesn't get there. I think when you're looking at the Eagles side, like, they have a great defense. So it could be like a Hassan Reddick or Josh Sweat, or maybe Miles Sanders has a big day, or A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith, or even Dallas Goedert. Like, Mahomes, it seems like that, or like Travis Kelce. I don't think any defensive player is really going to be in the cards there. Like a running back, maybe Pacheco like has a breakout game, like 140 yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean, you said he's a dog, so I mean, yeah, I mean, he is a dog. But the thing is, like, we know in a high majority of cases that the Chiefs win, it's through the passing game, it's through Patrick Mahomes, and unless like Travis Kelce scores like 3 touchdowns or hits like those stat lines that I talked about. I mean, I think just playing Mahomes, if you're playing the Chiefs to win, might as well just bet Mahomes to win MVP instead.
Mahomes feels like the easy one at plus 130, especially when you look back at like previous MVPs and you look at Brady, Edelman, Brady, and then the one that Mahomes won, Mahomes got it.
Yep.
It's like, all right, so it feels like Brady's on the outs and Mahomes feels like the young GOAT coming in. If they win and he has an even somewhat competent game, he's going to be the one that gets
100%.
2-3 touchdowns and 250 yards. Feels like it would be enough to get him in, unless, of course, Kelsey goes off. What do you think?
Yeah, I think he's the default. Quarterbacks are always the default for any MVP. If the Chiefs win, I think that there's going to be a little bit of that Brady logic applied to Mahomes in the MVP. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I remember the Super Bowl where the Patriots came back from 28-3. James White totally should have been the MVP of that game. I think we all agree.
Yep.
And who got it? Of course it was Brady, because he led the comeback. He threw for 500 yards or whatever it was. And I mean, I think that similar logic is going to apply. If the Chiefs win this game, you're going to see Patrick Mahomes win the MVP. The money line for the Chiefs winning is plus 105, and this is plus 130 on Mahomes winning the MVP. Those two events are so synonymous, I think, that Patrick Mahomes is clearly a solid bet to win the MVP. And he was honestly my pick too. So
there we go. Love it. Glad to be on the same page with Dario here. It just makes me happy.
Well, I'm not gonna triple down on that. I mean, that's too easy, right? I'm not gonna just be, let's go Patrick Mahomes. We're all three gonna pick the guy that's second most favorite, and the Chiefs are probably gonna win. No.
What do you got?
These props, I like to sprinkle on these props because it's a good way you can get screwed whoever wins, right? So if it's Patrick Mahomes and it's the Chiefs, are probably gonna win. If it's the Eagles, it's probably gonna be Jalen Hurts. But I'm going to go a little bit further down, and I'm going to sprinkle on Jerick McKinnon at plus 6,000. Okay. Why? Isaiah Pacheco's obviously playing. He's been playing great. We just talked about it in the whole show. Clyde Edwards-Hilaire's back. The expectation is Clyde's going to get a lot of usage. But Jerick McKinnon, down the stretch, was such a pivotal part of this offense. Plus 6,000. This guy catches 2 touchdowns. They give him 10 carries. He goes for 50, 60 yards. And maybe Patrick Mahomes doesn't have the best day. Maybe Kelsey doesn't have the best day. He goes for 70 yards. I think there's a world where a McKinnon of all people wins it at plus 6,000. And if you want to go even further down, we're talking about dogs.
Now
we're talking about Frank Clark, dog. Okay. We're talking about Chris Jones, dog. How about we talk about Nick Bolton? How about we talk about the linebacker from Missouri, Nick Bolton, who's just a menace in the middle right there next to Willie Gay. I like him. I think the number is 15,000 right now, plus 15,000. I just want to sprinkle a couple
Hey,
pennies on
man,
that
we
one
like
right there.
that.
Nick Bolton. We saw it with Malcolm Smith a couple years ago. Just give me a little bit of Nick Bolton if the Chiefs win. Maybe it's not a 37-30 game like the script says. Maybe it's a 20-10 game and Nick Bolton has a pick 6. I don't know. That's where I'm going.
It makes me so happy just knowing that you kind of do the same thing I do whenever I look at odds. I just got to look down the list a little
you
bit.
can't stop at the top.
See who's over there. You're like,
Mahomes.
oh, this could be kind of interesting. And then you think of like the most outlandish scenarios of like, like this could happen. It's probably not going to happen. But like, if it does happen, like literally we've seen it. It was the Seattle Super Bowl where Malcolm Smith, like that was a guy that like nobody like even
nobody he
thought
was
of.
plus 15,000.
Right, exactly. And it just takes
if he was there at all.
if he was
Right?
even on the list.
right, and it takes just like a game-changing play, like a strip sack, fumble return for a touchdown. Like you almost like have to either like score a touchdown, or if you're like a pass rusher, like 2 to 3 sacks, maybe like a forced fumble. But it's like also if it's a low-scoring game, that's when it's the scenarios in which that happens. And like we can obviously think it's going to be a high-scoring game, but we've always thought so many games are going to be high-scoring. And the Eagles have an amazing defense, and the Chiefs, like, they're not necessarily a bad defense. Like there's a chance that this game like has something crazy like that happen, and then one of the defensive players wins. So
All right, so go all the way back to Super Bowl 35. 34-7, the Ravens win. Ray Lewis is the MVP. Fast forward a couple years, Dexter Jackson wins it for Tampa Bay.
2 interceptions in that game.
Safety, yep. And then you fast forward again. That was in 2003. Since 2003, it was nobody. It was all quarterbacks, and then Hines Ward and Deion Branch, and then Malcolm Smith in 2014. So we haven't had one since 2014. It's been 9 years. We're due.
Oh, we do.
It's due. It's dues year. That's what they call it, I think. So I'm going right there. Let's finish it out right here with the coin toss, though. The coin toss is probably the most bet, I would say, prop in all of the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Heads or tails? It's that easy.
I'm going last.
We gotta look at the historical trends of this one.
You even looked at the historical trends at heads, tails? It's the biggest bet.
I'm telling you guys right now, I wrote the script, so I know. So I'll let you guys go first for it
Oh,
because I already know. I know what it is.
What did Randy Moss say? Randy Moss said, tails never fails.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're in for
Play
a
PS2.
massive disappointment.
You
This
ever play PlayStation? Tails never fails. And then Dante Culpepper goes out and calls heads. All right, I'm going tails because it never fails. Where are you going, Dario?
I think my gut just tells me heads. You know, they have the special commemorative coins.
Come on.
They have a.
Is it heavy? Is it
the
heavy?
head side is always just a little bit cooler
Oh,
than the tail side because it's the first one they'll show. I don't know. I mean, we're talking about a bet that is guaranteed to lose you money and expected value. You might as well have fun with it. Pick the cooler side of the coin. Heads.
Bringing out the expected value. This is a fun one, man. Remember last year? I think McAfee put like $10K on heads or tails. I can't remember, but he lost, of course.
Guys, I don't know if you remember. Let's take some time back. 7 years ago, what happened at State Farm Stadium? Green Bay Packers versus the Arizona Cardinals in overtime. What happened with
Janis?
What happened to that coin toss?
I don't remember.
I know the Cardinals
It didn't
won it.
flip.
Oh, yeah.
Is that the one that landed like?
It didn't flip. In Arizona.
Oh God.
I'm not saying you bet on no flip to happen because you can't do that. But
That would be a pretty good bet.
I've read the script.
Plus $2 million.
Guys, it's heads. I'm sorry, Cody. I'm sorry. I think you're giving out some really bad coin toss advice over here. Dario and I got the lock of the year. It's heads. I'm telling you.
All right. Whatever, man. You can have heads. It's tails. Never fails. Randy Moss said it to Dante Culpepper back in 2003, and then it was heads. But I'm telling you right now,
Yeah.
Super Bowl 57.
Interestingly enough,
Oh,
well,
God.
4 of the last 5 have been heads. Before that, it was 4 in a row tails. Before that, it was 5 in a row heads. So the NFL refs are very streaky when it comes to the coin toss, and I think we're in the midst of a heater for heads.
Yeah, indoors, there's no wind. The air condition. I've checked this all out, guys. It's heads. It's heads. Don't listen to Cody on this one.
All right, man. Super Bowl 57 is this weekend, Sunday. This has been the Propcast Happy Hour with Dario Offstein. You can find him on Twitter at Dario Offstein. My man Dalton Kates showed out here in his hometown, Phoenix, Arizona. You can find him on Twitter at Dalton_Kates. We got some big news coming down the drain next couple months. Stay tapped into his Twitter for that. You can find us on Twitter at PlayerProfiler, at Roto Underworld, on the YouTubes. And check everything out from the top offers page where you can find everything from Caesars at the best sports books. They got the most novelty props in the game for this weekend. So make sure to go over there. Use that promo code UNDERWORLDFULL. Like I said before, they got the quick picks. They got everything you have to offer at a sports book. This has been awesome, man. I appreciate you guys coming on. Dario, been a great week down here at the Propcast Happy Hour.
Been a great season.
Been a great
at the
season
Propcast
at the
Happy
Propcast
Hour.
Happy Hour. Can't speak English now. Dalton, any last words?
Yeah. AJ Brown's a dog.
That's it?
I'm not saying anything else. That's it.
You sure you don't want to dabble on the MVP
Hold on,
odds?
wait. Who you got winning the game? Give us your score predictions.
Yeah, we didn't pick
You picked the damn game. Minus 1.5, Philadelphia Eagles. Total 51.5. I'll go first.
Go for it.
31-17 Chiefs.
Wow.
Ooh.
MVP Nick Bolton.
I thought you said McKinnon a minute ago.
Yeah, well, McKinnon too.
Co-MVPs.
Co-MVP. Oh, dude,
That would mess with all the sports books. Would just be like, no one's getting their money on this one.
Imagine if you get bet on co-MVPs. I'm surprised they don't offer that.
Where are you going? Minus 1.5 Eagles.
I like Chiefs to win. I think Chiefs are gonna win. MVP Mahomes, man. As much as I want AJ Brown, and I'm personally rooting for it. Right after this, I'm gonna go to the fan experience, get myself an AJ Brown Super Bowl jersey to add to the collection. Yeah, but I think the Chiefs are gonna win.
You got to give us a score. Hans in the chat. He wants to know the exact score prediction from Dalton. He's throwing $500 on it.
Okay. Oh, exact score. Okay. Instead of 500, how about let's throw 600 on this one? Let's do 30-27 Chiefs.
I've also been leaning Chiefs this week. I think you and I talked about this after the opening night, just the way that the Chiefs guys talked about each other and talked about the team.
Yeah.
I think that their chemistry is on another level right now. And I mean, I'm a little bit concerned because there was that news today that Chris Jones was saying he's currently like battling a sore throat. There's a little bit of a bug going around the Chiefs hotel. Not to point any fingers at anyone or anything, but I think that might be a slight. Maybe there's a covert sabotage operation going on the Chiefs, but I still think, like, you just can't bet against Mahomes, right? Like, we saw him in the AFC Championship game. Everyone was thinking, oh yeah, the Bengals are going to get this one. Mahomes is limping around. He's had 2 more weeks to get healthy. I'm honestly still surprised that the Eagles opened as the favorite in this game. I've been telling people all season, whoever wins the AFC is going to be favored in the Super Bowl, no doubt. And I think that holds. My final score prediction is 27-23 Chiefs. Not quite as high scoring as you guys. In fact, that's, I guess, technically on the under, but I'm loving the Mahomes.
Clean sweep with the Chiefs this week.
There we go.
If you're going to play any DFS this weekend, go over to PlayerProfiler.com, go to Lineup Genius. The upside and value finders will be up. But that's all we got this week. PlayerProfiler.com, go check it out. The Propcast Happy Hour is in the books for the 2022 season. Clean sweep, Kansas City Chiefs, Super Bowl 57. For Dalton, for Dario, I'm Cody. Been a hell of a week, been a hell of a year. Appreciate all you guys.